With more Alpha 22 reveals coming out of Twitter, we've seen some long speculated details of the story and lore of 7 Days finally being confirmed, along with more detailed explanations to the history of Navezgane prior to the zombie outbreak. There's also some new Tier 5 POIs on the horizon, as well as continued efforts to update existing in-game models for a more modern and polished look. I recently did a deep dive on all of the contextual and environmental clues related to the speculated lore and story of 7 Days, that touched on a number of theories surrounding the fall of Navezgane and the following story of the Duke and Noah, which may since have been somewhat confirmed in a new decal reveal by the Fun Pimps over on Twitter. In their post, they showed off a selection of updated newspaper decals that are packed with new information and images that flesh out the story of 7 Days in a way never really seen before, providing a huge amount of context to the in-game world. In these two new newspaper decal textures, we can learn that the cause of the deadly radiation zone that encircles, or in squares, the playable area of 7 Days was in fact the result of nuclear detonations, sanctioned by the President of the United States in an effort to contain the viral outbreak. The headline reads, "President orders nuclear launch in desperate attempt to contain virus. Millions dead." Explaining the radiation zone aspect of the game long since speculated about, as well as ruling out the theory the virus began due to a result of the Third World War. It's also confirmed that the virus is widespread across the globe, with governments across the world find themselves unable to effectively contain the virus, and that the CDC has fallen and has no qualified personnel left to research a cure. All of the text in these newspaper clippings is actually readable and provides further context to the story so far, so I definitely suggest checking them out for yourself and reading them in full if you're interested in the lore of 7 Days, as this is the most in-depth update to the storyline of the game we've seen yet. Interestingly, in the second of the two newspapers, the tagline reads, "As the world sits in fear, landmark report says US healthcare on the verge of collapse. With no cure in sight, many fear Arizona may be next." Which also suggests the virus did not begin within Arizona or Navezgane, but was spread to it, which may also rule out the theory that Higashi Pharmaceuticals was the originator of the virus. Looking closer at the second newspaper clipping, we can also make out a community comment segment, provided by a prominent member of the Navezgane community pre-fall, Duke H. Casador, 43-year-old proprietor and owner of the Casador Casino. In the segment, the Duke is quoted saying, "This represents a terrible danger for Navezgane. We need to close our borders now, not tomorrow, now." Going on to claim, "My casino will not fall, and I, personally, will not tolerate the destruction of this safe Eden, even if you insist on careless inaction." Which is definitely the start to some interesting world building surrounding the origins of the Duke and how he became the de facto dictator of Navezgane post-fall. That may tie into the later edition of Bandits, should they be introduced in future alphas. Moving on from world building decals to all new POIs, we also got a look at an upcoming Tier 5 POI, Grover High School. This POI seems to have quite a large footprint, with a visually interesting architectural design, which will increase the number of larger and more challenging POIs available to players in the later stages of the game. And who can complain about a larger variety of locations to explore and quest in? Judging by its surroundings, it does look to be a POI that will spawn in country towns, fleshing out the rural districts that little bit more, as we have already seen huge increases to city-themed POIs in Alpha 21. As far as I'm aware, and at least from what I saw with the test build of Grover High School before it was completed, it will include a large array of classrooms, as well as an indoor pool and locker rooms beneath the main building, though I'm sure a lot has changed since I saw it back then. The mini bike also received a remodel in line with all of the other vehicles we've seen remodeled so far, including the motorbike, 4x4 and bicycle, with a few mod attachments visible from the pictures like expanded storage slots and increased fuel capacity. There's not much to say about this, other than that the model obviously looks cleaner and more detailed, as they have with every other updated vehicle in the lead up to Alpha 22 so far. Finally, the Fun Pimps also shared new animal models as well as improved fur shaders, giving the fur on these animals a more naturalistic appearance so that they resemble real living animals more so than animals made out of plasticine. I think this is a great improvement, and while many do bemoan the updated models and textures as an unneeded drain on resources and time, better suited to adding new features and content, I personally understand the need to first bring all of the visual elements up to the same standard as they modernise the game. It makes more sense to standardise the visual identity of the game first, before adding in new content that may look jarringly different to existing models and textures already present in the game. While there are currently huge efforts going into modernising and updating all of the in-game models and entities, which I do personally think are great changes, it does leave me slightly worried that this may be the focal point Alpha 22, along with additional POIs. And we do really need something more substantial to justify the excitement for Alpha 22. With Bandits seemingly on the back burner and not arriving in Alpha 22, it leaves many wanting more from the game in terms of additional content and features outside of visual changes, especially regarding late game content. There are some really great ideas going into the Twitch integration element of the game that I feel could benefit greatly from being in the actual game, like game events and boss type enemies, and I do have to wonder if the Fun Pimps plan to implement some of these ideas into the game proper at some point, especially as they are already seemingly developed for a feature very few in the community will actually ever use. That's it for today. Make sure to let me know what you think about the upcoming changes in the comments below. If you want to stay updated with all things 7 Days to Die and survival gaming, hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out. And if you enjoyed the video, why not check out one of my other videos on screen now.